I don't even know if we should release this because I'm just talking mad shit about everybody. Just kind of catch up with what the fuck is going on. I mean, it's a good time because I guess it gives like different perspective, but essentially it's just like a really fucked up week. So, yeah, still don't have anything of mine printed for New World Order, like, and the shop just closed today until next Monday, and I leave on Wednesday, so everything that I essentially needed for this weekend can't get printed, and the person that's supposed to be embroidering my shit is taking his sweet time, so I'm having to wait on that to happen too, which is like, I get it, like, you know what I mean? It is last minute, but it's like, this shit needs to get done.
Yeah.
And,
Did they say they could do it?
yeah, they did, and that's the reason that I didn't have it done at another place that in Racine that like actually does embroidery and isn't just like my friend doing embroidery. But so just kind of like guess waiting it out to see on that. There was a shirt job that I was supposed to do for these kids, and it was gonna be cool and shit. And all the shirts came in yesterday, and they're fucking polyester and not cotton. And they don't even have any fucking Cotton Champion long sleeve shirts. They don't exist in the wholesaler that I buy from. So now I have to go through this whole process of returning them, getting new shirts.
Did you print on
It's
them
just
already?
not, well, no.
Okay.
But like, I just fucking, now it's gonna delay the process hella. And now I gotta deal with them being all pissed off and shit. Cause of course they're not understanding. Like, they're just fucking like, you know what I mean? Like, they're trying to get their fucking shirts.
Yeah.
So like, I get it, but it's a little out of my control. And, yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of like drowning. I went to a fucking, I don't even know if we should release this because I'm just talking mad shit about everybody, but it's just the fucking truth. Like, I went to Madison this weekend to film a documentary on some musicians, and I took the whole weekend to go out there. So that, and like I left, you know what I'm saying, Kenosha for 3 days, which is like a decent amount of time for me to get stuff done in town. And I went out there to do that, and they didn't even record a single song all weekend. Like, we just sat in the studio hella and just kind of like, just honestly just wasted a bunch of time. Like, just wasted an incredible amount of time, and I was filming all weekend, so it's just kind of like, why am I here? Like, in theory, this was gonna be great, but in reality, this is just nothing is happening. Like, nothing's being created. Like, y'all, like they were talking about trying to make an EP, and it's like they just didn't. So it's like, you know, I get it that you can't like force creativity and you can't rush anything, but it's like, bro, like, there's a lot of idle time spent that could have been spent on creating, and it really makes you realize, like, when you spend 72 hours straight with people and you're not separated from them, you really get to realize how people spend their time. And you know what I mean? And in reality, nobody is really working as hard as they're portraying.
Well, it's like we said, we talked about that in another one, like you have to show, even if you're not correct, even if you don't have the spark, like you have to start working, and then the spark comes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just have to
around.
be. Yeah, and even if you're just working on personal projects, or if you're working on anything, anything's better than sitting around. You know what I'm saying? Doing stuff that's not making music or not being creative. Especially when I've like offered 3 days of my time to record this. I mean, it was a great lesson, you know what I'm saying? It's, you know, a great lesson to check the situation you're walking into and actually audit what it is before you step into it. But that's happening in all aspects of my life recently, honestly, is really like,
Any thoughts on how to do that though?
what, audit what's going on?
Yeah, because that's hard because it's far. Like most of the time.
Yeah,
It's
it
hard
is
to do
hard.
that.
Yeah, no, it is hard, but I guess it's just a matter of like, you need to really get, like, I'm getting to the point where I'm realizing that if I just start to schedule things out a couple weeks in advance and really try to like define like, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to do this and nothing. It all comes down to presenting yourself professionally, I think. How you present yourself and how you pitch the project, because like, of course, I put all this on my shoulders for not stressing enough that like, I'm coming here for these days, and this is exactly the content that I intend on capturing. This is exactly, you know what I'm saying, what needs to be done, and in communicating that before I go there, so that way if I do go all the way out there, and I've already outlined to them what I was expecting and they don't follow through, then that's their fucking problem and not mine. But in this instance, it doesn't fall on their fucking shoulders. I'm a fucking idiot because I just thought I was going to spontaneously go out there and it was going to be, and it was cool. It was still an interesting experience. I still met great people and like glad I got to spend time. Yeah. But you can't just fucking like, I don't know if I just lost my fucking magical powers from when I was 17 or if maybe things just seemed a lot more exciting back then, but you can't just jump into something and it's this like beautiful production that you were expecting to create if you haven't laid the proper foundation or pretense before. So it's like that. So it's really just a matter of like outlining to yourself like, what do you actually intend on accomplishing? What pieces do you actually intend on putting out? Like getting things solidified and not just being like, oh yeah, this month I'm gonna put out my merchandise line. Because what happens between the time you have that idea and the time to get that idea going, it could be a lot, and it could throw you completely off track with life in general, as in like, my life's been kicking my ass, especially financially, you know what I'm saying, whether it's people taking advantage of me, or, well, essentially, actually, it's just really just people taking advantage of me all across the board, whether it's a fucking mechanic or my roommates, like, you know, whatever it is, like, and then me having to play catch up to try to get back, that takes some hella of my mental energy away from this being able to come up with what I'm going to do for this project. So then it ends up being rushed rather than had I just planned it out 3 weeks in advance, had it all set up, you know, communicated with some models or whatever, make sure to thoroughly communicate with the person that was embroidering, make sure to, you know, essentially what I'm saying right now is all of this is still my fault. Even though I was just bitching in the beginning and blaming a bunch of other people, seemingly blaming, I know that it's my fault for not laying the proper foundation and having the most clear communication in the beginning. Had I planned this out further and then people didn't follow through, well, then they're just assholes and it falls on their shoulders. But in this instance, it's my fault because I didn't come across extremely professionally in the beginning and clearly outline every single point, you know what I'm saying, and even have it figured out for myself. So, you know, it taught me that. Same with you know, the roommate situation, like just all across the board, you know, really communicating what those expectations are before somebody gets in there, and you just can't be lackadaisical and you expect people to do the ideal thing. You can't idealize situations or people or collaborations or projects or anything. And also too, like another thing that I learned through this was that when you're going to work on something with somebody, your expectations are going to be completely different, and you can't count on that person to be a clear communicator and let you know what their expectations are necessarily. And, like, you just can't a lot of times, you know what I mean? Because sometimes a lot of people just don't communicate properly. And the thing is, you have to either, like, over-communicate your expectations and get confirmation that the other person has the same thing, or you just like leave those expectations and opinions about your projects at the door and you just focus on getting the work done. And you get the work done and then you could critique from there. You know what I'm saying? Rather than trying to like every step of the way be super opinionated about what's going on, you know what I'm saying? And every step of the way like be like, oh, well, this didn't pan out. You know what I mean? My expectations of what this boxing match this weekend is completely different than the owner of the gym's expectations, is completely different than the boxer's expectations. And if we're all collaborating on the marketing campaign together, we all have the opportunity to be let down in different ways.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? And I think people need to be aware of that more often, just being a bit more perceptive, but also like just letting go of those expectations and really just focusing on the work, you know?
Yeah.
Because what happens when you start to focus on the work is, well, you realize that when you're going into things in the beginning, it's kind of an egotistical thing because you want to be able to check your milestones to give yourself that pat on the back. And you want to be able to fulfill your expectations so you can give yourself that pat on the back and be like, haha, this was successful. You know what I mean? But then it goes to that whole like relative thing, like, well, 30 people at my event is exciting to me, but 300 people at your event is exciting to you. 30 people at your event is devastating. 300 people to me is overwhelming. You know what I mean? And vice versa. And, you know, so it's just like, it's all super relative at the end of the day. But essentially what I'm saying is, like, what I've learned is just do the work and don't get so hung up in your expectations because, you know, there's probably still something to be proud of there. And, you know, things aren't ever actually going to go as you plan them to.
Yeah. I think part of that too for me, I've learned is, and I'm still relearning this, is like getting it on paper as opposed to like, because you talk to people and you're like, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of people there, and again, you might be thinking 30 people's a lot, and they might be thinking 300 people's a lot. Someone else is like 3,000 people's a lot. Like,
Yeah.
like if you say like this is our goal, is this many people? Again, I struggle with this still doing this sometimes, but like even just in the email, it's not necessarily like not like a contract, but like just saying, okay, these are the goals, you know, to do this, you know, even just like marketing goals too, where it's not necessarily like we're gonna do social media blasts. These are specifically what we're gonna do. You know, like then people aren't like, you know, it's not like, hey Johnny, why the hell didn't you share it? It's like you were supposed to share it. Like,
Exactly.
here it is on the paper.
Exactly, and that's one thing that I'm realizing too with my events is like I'm expecting the artists to share these posters.
Yeah.
But if I don't detail out to them when and how,
Yeah, they don't know how.
fuck me, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's just a matter of like, you know, Nathan, if you don't want to drown, then don't set yourself, then build yourself a goddamn sturdy boat 3 weeks before the flood comes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Don't try to grab onto a fucking door when the flood comes. You know what I mean? Like you get like, and of course it's like obviously that analogy is like, well, you can't predict it. You know what I mean? You can't predict the flood. You can't predict the things in your life, but you can try to kind of like set up, situate, like, you know, I can set myself up like to be straight in the future, you know, and if I'm anticipating things, I need to not just go off the fact that I think I'll be able to handle it in the future, because when it all happens at once, you know, like yesterday I almost snapped in half, bro. Like I couldn't handle that yesterday. Like I felt defeated, and like I don't ever feel defeated. So like yesterday I just felt like, and even still today kind of, I'm just like, do I even want to keep doing this shit? Like I'm like
Because you're
mapping
getting
my
hit.
whole life around this.
Because you were getting hit by multiple. It wasn't like one thing. It was like 5 things coming at like
At the same fucking time, you know, I booked a boxing match in my fucking event on the same day. What a fucking rookie mistake. You know what I'm saying? Now, how am I going to get coverage at the boxing event? And how am I even just going to make appearances and network?
Yeah.
My event, how, you know what I mean? Obviously, I got to be there. The merch, the fuck, you know, I got to sell that this weekend. I got to sell that at Art Basel. I wanted to shoot it all week long. You know what I mean? I didn't want to. Now I'm going to get to fucking Florida. Who the fuck am I going to shoot? You know what I mean? I'm going to have to hope I can find some artists there. And that's, again, that, like, wishful thinking thing rather than setting up ahead of time. And then shit with my rent, my breaks, the fucking, like, you know, it all happened yesterday. And it was like the sheet just got lifted yesterday. And then when it all hits the fan, it's like, okay, well, you know, how am I going to handle this? The thing is, though, I didn't see any of it coming, so I didn't try to prepare. So, yeah, it just kind of wisened me up and let me know, like, if you just figure this shit out ahead of time, you won't always feel like you're drowning, you know, when it all comes to you, because that shit is fucked up and mad discouraging. Yeah, I also got to check my phone to fucking make sure that these people aren't gonna fucking murder me, because I'm assuming that they're pissed off.